tuned into the most unpredictable podcast on the World Wide Web.
It's about to shut it.
Shut it! It's Say It Loud, hosted by Karen.
Down! Hey!
Across all major platforms, and you are locked in.
You are locked in.
You know what it is. Pour up a glass of wine, ladies. Let the Henny flow, fellas. And get ready to turn the fuckery up to lip scatter. It's Karen Hill live on Say It Loud Radio on your favorite internet platform, streaming live.
Yes, it is another episode of Say It Loud. And in the hot seat today, we have Ashley Cobb, who is would you say a sex educator, Ashley?
I don't consider myself an educator. I'm a sex blogger. Basically, that's how I started, and that's what I am. I'm a blogger who now writes for publications and has a podcast.
That's so cool, though. So I've been following you on Instagram for a while now, and just kind of peeking in and seeing some of the places where you're writing and the questions that people are asking. And I thought you would be a good fit for Say It Loud, because I feel like we all have those questions in some ways, and we all want to know a little bit more, but we don't know how to go about sometimes finding that information or it being in a comfortable space where we can ask.
Right. I agree.
So how did you start Sex with Ashley?
Sex with Ashley started as a blog. It was more so like a sex education type stuff at first. I was just, talking about different things that related to education and pleasure, anatomy, things that I felt as adults we didn't know or we were not well versed in.
Right.
So that's how I got started, as like this place for me just to talk about different sexual health things that related to women.
Right. So did you start that blog independently? Was that just like something you were like, I'm just going to do this? Or, what was the inspiration behind starting the blog?
So I have a degree. My second degree is in health promotions, which is public health. So I wanted to originally work as a public health educator, like at a health department. I wanted to work with women and HIV and STDs. When I got out of college, it was a recession, and so I could not find a job. So I was a teacher for several years. But I still had a love for like sex, and I was talking about sex sporadically on like Facebook. Mm-hmm. And then I had another blog at first. It was a different name, and then I changed it to Sex with Ashley because I realized I was talking about sex more. So I'm like, let me just go ahead and make the sex blog. So that's what I did. And yeah, so that's kind of how it got started. I got started because I couldn't find a job doing what I wanted to do. And I realized that we still needed some type of like sex education as adults. Right.
No, I think that's amazing. I think, first of all, it's amazing that you think like, I can't find a job doing what I want to do, so I'm going to create what I want to do. Mm-hmm. So I think that in itself is admirable, because a lot of people now, we need to think more that way. And then creating a space where people can talk about sex, because like you said, when you go to school and you talk about sex education, it's not the same sex education that you talk about with your friends. It's not the same sex education that you're talking about with your girlfriends when you're 30 or when you're 40. You know what I mean? And so there needs to be a healthy space or somewhere where you can get that information from, depending on where you are in your life.
Right. Exactly. I agree.
So I think that's really important in creating the blog. And how about the podcast? Because I know you have a podcast too.
Yeah, I have two podcasts. So wow. I have Ho and Tell. And so Ho and Tell is a podcast that features anonymous sex stories of strangers. So strangers call in like I'm calling into you, and they, share whatever story that they want to share. And in post-production, their voices are changed, and we give them new names and all that stuff. And so that's what Ho and Tell's about. We did that podcast because I wanted to give people an outlet to share. There's things that people want to talk about, mm-hmm. that did or wanted to share. But everybody doesn't want to know. Everybody does not want to everyone know their business, which I totally understand. And so this is an outlet for people to share their dirtiest, deep, darkest, or whatever secret that they may have that pertains to sex. And then I have Gossip and Gasms, which is just me. It's a podcast where I'm talking about all the latest trending topics in the world that week that relate to sex.
Excellent. Oh, so that's interesting. That's really interesting.
So
I didn't even know there was like topics that around the world where people like, were based on sex, like things changing,
Well, it is, but it's about like, we talk about sex scandals, things in the news that pertain to like people have sexual assault or people getting arrested for, sex allegations.
Right.
We talked about a couple weeks ago, the whole Space Jam, the new movie that's coming out, how they changed Lola Bunny because she was, too sexual, stuff like that. And so it's topics that relate to current event topics that relate to the world of sex. And that's what we talk about on Gossip and Gasm. And some of them happen to be celebrities from time to time.
That's pretty cool. I think that's a good question too. I mean, I think there should be a space for that because I don't like that they changed Lola Bunny personally. Even though I'm kind of tomboyish, so I'm very like jeans, sneakers, and a hoodie type of girl. But I don't feel like a woman being sexy should be something that we have to like tone down.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like if I'm sexy and I'm pretty, then why do I have to tone that down to make somebody else comfortable?
Right. And no one asked for that. No one asked. No one asked to change Lola Bunny. And then, like I said on the podcast, so what are you going to do, for people who have big breasts? There's women who have big breasts. So are we changing every female cartoon character to represent to be like this tomboyish type, gender neutral, less sexy character? Because there are women who have big breasts, so who are they supposed to like have to represent them?
Right. I just feel like it could be anybody though. It could be anything. It's just like why is a woman not allowed to be totally like feminine in a certain space? That's really what it boils down to. It's like, okay, let's take some of that feminine away from her. And I just don't think that's necessary in certain spaces. Like, I don't even think the kids, honestly, in the movie coming out, I don't even think kids was looking at Lola Bunny like that. Like, we just watched, when I watched it the first time, and I'm an adult, I wasn't looking at her like, oh my God, she's like Jessica Rabbit, right? Or whatever the case may be. So I don't really see where, I think we're oversensitive in some sense, in some things where we're like, no, we need to turn this down because kids are looking at it. Like, no, if their mom is a beautiful woman and she's a beautiful woman, and then why should we have to like turn that off? I don't get that.
I just feel like they were doing a whole lot with that one because no one asked for that. No one asked for this. I mean, I can understand the whole. They removed Pepe Le Pew, and I can understand that. Pepe Le Pew was doing the most, and even as a kid, I thought, oh, that's a little, he's a little aggressive. That poor skunk or the cat. Pepe Le Pew is he a skunk? What is he? He's a skunk, right?
I think he's a skunk and she's a cat.
He's a cat. So the poor cat would be like terrified and trying to get away from him, and he would just be like, would not understand, no. So even as a kid, I thought he was doing a lot. So I can see how you like want to tone him down. I can see that. But Lola Bunny, like no one asked for this. So
this is very true. What do you think about and I know this is totally off topic and I'm gonna have to drop this podcast sooner because of it, but what do you think about that scandal with Derek Jackson?
Child. So here's my 2 cents on Derek Jackson. I feel as though, honest to goodness, I don't feel like Derek Jackson. I feel like Derek Jackson is probably going to still cheat. I don't feel like, just based on the videos that I saw with him and his wife, I feel like he only did the second video with his wife because of his brand. This is how he makes money. He was more concerned about his brand in that damn book more so than he was about his wife's well-being and the status of their relationship. He did not seem really that concerned. I feel like he's still going to cheat. I also feel like she is. I can relate to her because as from someone who grew up in the church and understands the church rhetoric, I understand what she was saying. Like I've heard women who repeated similar type of theology and rhetoric about men they're with. So I'm not going to shame her per se for that. If you like I said on my podcast, if you want to stay with him, sis, that's your husband, stay with him. Like, that's perfectly fine. But like, what we're not going to do is say the devil made him cheat. No, he cheated because he wanted to cheat. Just be like, I'm going to stay and just be okay with that. I think the church has done her a disservice, I feel, because, she is using God and spiritual attacks as a way to justify her husband's wayward dick, and it has nothing to do with that. He just cheated. I don't feel like they're going to be together either long term, because I feel like he has outgrown where she is.
That's very deep. I think that so I've been to actually one of his live shows, and it was quite interesting because the whole time I was there, I went because a friend invited me, and my mind was somewhere else. The whole time I was there, I was counting how many people were on the line, and I was like, look how much money they're making from this. That's all.
Live shows. That's new to me.
Yeah, they did a show here in New York I don't know how long ago, and I went with a couple of my girlfriends, and they all were on this, and it was all men up there. It was all men talking about relationships. All the guys from Instagram, Ace, Jackson, the Steven, all of them with the books, the poet, Mike, the poet. It was all of them. They had a whole tour, and the place was packed with women. It was packed with women, and the line was literally out the door. And the whole time I was just counting how much it cost each person to get in here, how many women were in here, and that they were listening to take advice from these men. And then on my podcast, I always get mad. Ashley, because I'm like, if I tell you, you're not going to listen to me because you're going to be like, oh, she hating and she's single and da da da. But if a man tells you, you're going to listen. So I always thought in the back of my head, like, this is bullshit. Like, women just like to listen to men because they think like men know men better than men. Yeah, these are the same men that are out here dogging their wives. You know what I mean? Or and they're all good-looking men. I don't really think they have to try really hard to meet women or to find a date or to get whatever it is that they need. I just feel like the reality of what they sell versus the reality of what they live is two different things. And so from the giddy up, I knew like this is a business. But in this particular instance, what I found, having been in a relationship similar and had a similar experience of like being married to someone who's out there cheating, I felt like the first thing people do is, because this is what happened to me, it's like, let's go to church together, let's work on this together, and so it comes also like almost like you hide behind that to make an excuse, or to I'm going to fix this, or God's going to fix this, and all of a sudden now this is the focal point of your relationship, where that should have been, if that was the case, this would have never happened in the first place.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So I think even for his part, like, I don't blame her at all, but his part sitting there with her saying all these things is like, you're telling her what you need to tell her to make it sound like you're going to do what you need to do. But the reality is that if that was the case, you would have been doing it all along and you wouldn't have been in this situation. So I feel, that I don't know. I feel like maybe she might stay, and I wouldn't be mad at her. I understand some women stay for multiple reasons, and they have children and they got things to think about and houses, and I get it. I just don't think that he should prey on her weaknesses and then blame, and then get God involved in all of that. Like, I just feel like I agree with Charlemagne. I feel like he put his wife in the line of fire.
I didn't even hear Charlamagne's.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said he used his wife as a shield. That's what Charlamagne said. And I agree with him. He put her out there. It almost like it deflected off of him and put her out there as the shield to kind of like protect him, protect his brand, protect what he's doing. And I feel like that was she wasn't ready for that.
No, wasn't. And I don't know why they kept making videos all last week or whatever it was. And she made two, I believe, without him. And I'm like, why are y'all still making videos? Like, just stop and it'll go away. Like, what are you doing?
Let it go away. Yeah, just let it go away. Let it go. Because really, at the end of the day, it's gonna wash away, and nobody's gonna care in another week or so. But I just find it so interesting. I mean, maybe his brand will care, but I don't think they're gonna care enough.
No, I mean, I think he will probably lose some followers. I was never a Derek Jackson follower or fan, so it doesn't really matter to me. And I think there's some women, who are going to be like, nah, I can't follow him. But there's always going to be people who like, oh, all he had to do was to say God and Jesus. And there's some people who, going to eat that up.
Wash it away. All is forgiven.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't. It's all business. So I want to ask a couple questions to you. What is the most common question you get asked as far as like writing the blog and about, the sex toys that you review? What do you think that people hold back on? Like, what do you get asked the most?
I typically get asked the most from women about how they can have better sex with their partners. So I realized that a lot of us are not having great sex. I mean, we're having okay sex, but it's not like the sex that we want to be having. So I get a lot of questions geared towards that. Really?
That's interesting to know. That there's so many women. I mean, I believe it. I just think that there's so many. It's so ironic to me that like every time I meet a man is always talking about, like, when you talk to a man about sex, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. They're really confident. And then when you talk to women, they're not as confident. They always tend to feel like I need to learn to do something else, or I can do something better. So it's like we're more self-conscious as females. And then men are just like, nah, I got this. And sometimes they don't.
A lot of times they don't. Because a lot of times the questions that, like I always tell people, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, if you are not having good sex, part of it could be you not communicating what you need. So that is a part of it too. But a lot of times it's the person you're having sex with they don't know you or your body, or they don't care enough to learn what it is you like and need. So it's a lot of times the sex that you're getting.
Yeah, so I totally agree with that. That people aren't communicating as much as they should be communicating to get the results that they want to get in sex and kind of learn each other. And I don't think it's just from a female point of view. I think from a male point of view, like I said, like there's a lot of people that, like, in my last relationship, this worked. And so they bring it into their new relationship and it might not necessarily work in their new relationship. So
right. I
think that's it happens. If you could demyth any sex related topic, what would it be?
I think this is a good one. I was kind of talking about this yesterday on Facebook. That sex toys. So a lot of people assume that you don't need to use sex toys because if you're a partner, or sex toys take away from the experience. And most of the time, people think this are male. They tend to think, well, I don't need that, or like, I ain't with that toy stuff. You got me. But sex toys actually enhance the experience, and it's okay to use a sex toy in addition to your penis. But no,
I think that's great. I'm all for that. But I do think that there is a large group of women too. There's not just men. There's women that are like, well, why would I need a sex toy if I live with a man in the house? There's women too that would say that, and you're like, no, it's not. It doesn't take away because somebody else is there, it's going to enhance the experience. It's going to give you guys more opportunities to try new things and kind of engage in, different things that you can do together versus just like, okay, he has a dick and there it is. But there are a lot of women with that mentality too, because I have a lot of the toys that in my house that I give away, and there's women that are like, well, I don't need that. And I'm like, well, it might be fun. And it's like, well, I got a man at home. And I'm like, okay, but there's ways to like enhance your sex life by using the toys as an addition to whatever it is that you're doing. So.
Yeah, it's like I tell people, like, toys are the icing on like your favorite cake. The cake is already good by itself, right? In most cases, and the frosting, the icing just adds to it. So that is like sex toys. And also another myth is that you don't need to use lube. You should be using lube every time you have sex. Every time, no matter how, if you have that WAP or not, you should still be using lube, because with the friction of the sex, how it goes, you're going to dry out, right? So you should be using lube, and the wetter the better. So it's I don't have the numbers, the percentage top of my head, but it's a percentage of, basically, when you use the lube as a vulva owner, you are more likely to orgasm. You have better orgasms. You orgasm faster, quicker with lube because you're wetter. Even if you have no issues getting wet down there, incorporating lube into your life will make it more pleasurable, and will make it easy for you to orgasm. So you should always use lube.
That is a really good piece of information. That is like dropping gems. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, you all should be using lube all the time. Whatever kind of lube works for you, but you should be using it and not say, well, I don't need it because, you should have it. You should have it. And you should try different ones. I always tell people that too. Like, you should try different lubes and see what works for you, because different things work for different people. And experiment with whatever it is that you feel like, oh, this might be good for me. This might not be. My partner might need this. I think that's a good one. That's a good myth too, because I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't need it.
They do. Well, yes, you do. And I'm a fan of Momentum. I worked with Dr. Dre last year. I'm a fan with Momentum Lube. I like Momentum Lube. I like the silicone lube. I use it. I like it better than the water-based one. I don't really like water-based. Water-based tend to be a little thin, and it dries out quicker. So the Momentum silicone lube works great, and I'm a fan of that one.
Oh, shout out to Dr. Dre. He was on my last episode, and he's now our in-house doctor. And every time you order from my lingerie line, you actually get a free sample of Momentum. So you guys can go shop. I can plug real quick. You can go shop sexton.com and get your free Momentum lube. So I think that's actually a good, very, very good myth that people need to know. What about men, Ashley? What are some of the things so I have a lot of guys that listen to my podcast. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things? Yeah, I have actually more men than women, to be totally honest with you. What are some of the things you think guys need to know? Because we talk to the ladies, they take classes and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know if the guys, like, there's some things they need to know and they don't really ask questions, but what do they need to know? What are some of the things they need to know about a woman's body and having sex, or a male body, depending on who their partner is, that they just probably don't think about?
So I talked about this yesterday again on my Facebook. We were talking, I said that, and this is just from my observation, and this does not apply to everyone, but from my observation, when it comes to Black men and Black women are more open sexually, and we are open to exploring and trying new things. Black men feel like, they are freaky. And I post this on Instagram too. Like they feel like they are like top tier freaks because they lick booty and had a threesome back when they was, 18. Mm-hmm. And they feel like, oh, you're a freak, but like, no, not really, because they're not open to trying things. And I also think when you mention to a Black man, because I've had a lot of male friends and we've had this conversation, about being open and trying new things, they automatically assume you're talking about either the butt, the booty, or involving another man. There are so many things you can do with sex, with a vagina, that does not involve the ass or another male partner. Okay.
Yeah. They go left field with that.
They always go there. I'm like, that's not what I was talking about. Now, I know men who are okay with, a little anal play, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I always tell people, sex with a woman is heterosexual sex. Also, no one's gonna know what you're doing with your woman but you. So it shouldn't be. You should not think y'all should be talking about outside if you're not comfortable. But you can explore different things sexually without your butt having to be one of those things. There's a whole lot of things to do.
Yeah, definitely.
They're very closed off, and they feel like they are like these freaky people, and they want these freaks, and then women are leaving them in the dust. And 10 years from now, I feel like, Black women, we're having this whole I call it sexual revolution, where we are like finding ourselves and exploring and figuring out what makes us tick sexually. And the men, they're just stagnant. And I understand why they're like that. They have been conditioned to not really explore sexually. They're conditioned to think anything outside of regular penis and vagina sex is, quote unquote gay, or, historically, when they say, sometimes they don't feel safe discussing some of their sexual fantasies or desires, because they feel they've been outed. They've been talked about. Well, you don't do that. Or, you know what I'm saying? So I get why they're like that. But okay, so but now, like, you guys need to like at least attempt, or at least be open to trying new things, because 10 years from now, when we're not fucking you guys anymore, you're gonna wonder what happened. And it's because you're not satisfied, and we're light years ahead of you guys.
Yeah, I definitely think that women, especially right now, I see it in so many, especially, hosting a show with so many women that are empowered in sex, and so many conversations about sex and classes and yoga and dancing and all these opportunities for women to kind of like explore their sexuality and celebrate it. And then, like you said, the guys are kind of like vanilla. For a lack of a better term, it's like, nah, it's dick and it's pussy, and that's just about it. And it's like, no, there's more, and you need to be open with your partner and have a discussion and kind of like get out your head sometimes, because the fact of the matter is, like, a woman will enjoy it, but so will a man. Don't get it twisted. Like, there's other things you can do, guys, that you're going to enjoy, and you're going to orgasm just as much, but you have to be open to have those conversations, to be comfortable with your partner, to be able to say, okay, I'm going to try something new, or let me Google, right, and not feel that sense of like, okay, this is weird, or this is a shame, or things like that. And I get it. Like, society has it, especially with Black men, minority men, like, society has it that like, if you don't do it this way, then every other way is wrong.
Right. And I agree with that. That's correct.
But I do feel like there's opportunities there and things that men could learn if they're open-minded to it. And it's weird, because there's a lot of women in relationships right now who are not sexually satisfied and don't know how to have that conversation with their partner.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of women like that. Like, they email me, and I'm like, I don't know what to say. Because there's men who I know, who I've dealt with, who you just mentioned something like, oh, let's use a sex toy, and it wasn't even use a sex toy on him per se. It was just use a sex toy, and it was like, nah, like, would not have it, would not do it. So like, how do you explore when you have a person who is not open to even just considering the idea of a small sex toy? So, you really are limited for what you can do with that person.
Yeah, that's sad. That makes me sad, because there's some women walking around now miserable, mm-hmm. And it's not that she doesn't love him. It's just like, I'm not satisfied sexually in this relationship. How do I get you to the same level that I'm on? If you're not willing to have this discussion, if you're not willing to try anything new, if you're not willing to kind of like read an article, And it's a hard conversation to have, because you don't want to take away somebody's, like, you don't want to make anybody feel bad, but at the same time, you have to kind of express what it is that you need and vice versa.
Exactly.
So how does somebody do that? Ashley, like, how do we just be like, okay, you need to read this article in this magazine? You need to read this Dear Ashley blog so that they can, like, how do you start that conversation with someone?
So I always tell people all the time. So I give advice from someone who is like single standpoint. So like if you're married to someone for 20 years, obviously you're not going to leave them, clearly. So I from that standpoint, what I would do is I would probably either send over, like, if it's a position or something you want to try, send it over in a text message, like a picture or an article about it, and see what their feedback is. Or you can send over like a porn clip and see what their feedback is, and see if they're even receptive to it first. And if they're like, shut that down, like, nah, then I don't really know what you do with that. Like,
yeah, that's the thing.
Force people to do things they don't want to do, and if you are, you know, single and sex is important to you, I would say, well, you need to find someone who you're sexually compatible with. Right. But if you're with someone long term and you know, y'all have a whole life together, I don't know what you do with that. Honestly.
I don't know either. I think communication is key. I really do. I think communication is key, and being open-minded. And then I think also being honest with yourself and saying, okay, this relationship with this person might never be what I want it to be. And then you got to make a decision,
right?
You know, because the fact of the matter is that I think everybody has a different love song, and then every person has a different sex song. And sometimes your compatibility when it comes to sex may not be the same thing. You know, and there's a reality behind that. Like, it could be the best person in the world and you love them, and that's great. That's cool. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be sexually compatible, you know? Right. And I think we have to be honest about that and say, okay, we are or we aren't. If we're not, then how do we work through that? If we're both committed to working on that, or just we're not. And that's that. Like, I think that a lot of times when we think about relationships, we think about every other part of the relationship. Like, are they financially stable? Are they handsome? Do they want children? You know, what schools did they go to? We look at all of those things as, you know, when we're picking a partner. We don't really think about the fact that, like, okay, they have all these things, these check boxes, but sexually we're not compatible.
That's why I tell people, have sex first. I know that's so not like what people say. Have sex before you get married. Have sex before you catch feelings. Have sex before anything. Have sex first to decide if you guys are sexually compatible or not. 'Cause that's a real thing, and then build off that. Like,
yeah, because I mean, I actually totally agree with you. I think people need to have, like, you need to have sex before you get too far in the relationship to be like, you know what, this doesn't work for me, or, you know, I might end up cheating on this person because of what, you know, I'm not satisfied. Like, I think that should be something that people think about in how they navigate their relationships, because you might end up with somebody and you're just like, nah, this ain't it. Like, this is boring, and, you know, it's very vanilla, and she's not into this, he's not into that. And then now, you know, you're just with a person that you're not happy with in that particular area of your relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell them. I don't really have advice for that. I think you got to look how much you want to be in the relationship and how much you want to fix it. And I think sex too, a lot of people don't understand, like, you have to work at that part of your relationship just like you got to work at any other part of your relationship.
Yeah, sex, you know, in cases is not automatic. It's something that you have to not build, something that you have to work at and develop over time, right? Because I don't know this person, or this person's new, and I can't just automatically assume what worked for last person gonna work for this person. So I have to learn my partner, and so sex is a learned thing. Now, with that being said, there's some people who, no matter what you do, it's just not going to be any good.
Right.
So I wouldn't say like after 2 times it's still trash, leave. No, but like if it's like been like a month or something, and it's not getting any better, and then it might be just you're not compatible, and it might be time to be like, no, this is not gonna work for me.
Right. Yeah, I get it. I feel like people need to kind of make that a priority in their relationships and what they're thinking about. So my next question to you is like, what are some, I know that you review toys. So we want the goods, Ashley. Like, what are some of the toys that you feel a guy needs to have, a girl needs to have, a couple needs to have? Like, what is your top 5 that you're like, okay, you guys need these in the house?
Ooh, top 5. So the wand is, that's top 1, because you can use a wand for everybody, him, her, them, it doesn't matter. So a wand, also a bullet too. You can use a bullet on everybody, and bullets is very easy. It's less intimidating. It's not noisy. I like the masturbator sleeves for men because they can use it themselves, or you can use it with them on a blowjob. They help to relieve your mouth, so you can just be stroking him with a sleeve, and it gives like the same effect as your mouth there. So that's one.
You guys should be writing this down while you're listening to this. Like, run that back because you should be writing it down.
Yeah, and then like I think one that's kind of cute for couples to use. Anyone that has like the Bluetooth kind of vibes, where like one person controls it on the phone and the other person is wearing them. Those are make for really fun and fun toys to use, like when you're out and about or whatever. It's just a fun something to do together.
Right.
And let me see, one more. Something like I'm into like BDSM type stuff, so I like things like swings and not clamps, but like bondage gear. So like handcuffs and ankle cuffs, stuff like that. I think that's also fun to use and to have in your play chest to use from time to time.
All right, guys. So I had an episode once and I said, what's in your hoe bag? And I said, everybody needs to have a hoe bag. But you're not really a hoe, but you know what I mean? Like an adult toy box. Everybody needs an adult toy box. So let's go over this again, Ashley. Everybody needs a wand. And yes, you can use the wand on both of you.
Yeah.
Y'all got to read about that prostate stuff. Y'all got to learn that. A bullet. You guys can both use the bullet. Let's see. What else did you say?
This like stroker sleeves.
The stroker sleeves, yes. Every woman, because so your mouth don't get tired and your arm don't get tired, get a stroker. If you get a stroker sleeve and some of that momentum lube, you good to go, sis. I promise you, you are good to go. Like, sir, you are good to go. So get that. What else did you say? The Bluetooth. The remote. The Bluetooth toys. So they have these toys that I don't know if everybody knows this, but they have these toys where you download this app on your phone and it connects to the toy, and then you can control the toy from the app. So one person has the app on their phone, the other person has the toy. Hopefully it's inserted or somewhere where you're like feeling it, and then you can control it with your phone. So it's kind of fun to go out and have that. And then if you're into BDSM, there are like swings and handcuffs, there's rope, there's
floggers.
Yeah, floggers, there's straps, there's all kinds of like fun stuff that you can put in your adult toy box and put in your hoe bag and have a good time and enjoy each other. And I think when people talk about their sex life, it's always crazy to me that people get married and they're like, if you don't want to have sex anymore, get married. And I'm like, but now you have someone so comfortable with you that you're going to be with, you can do anything you want. Why not make it fun? Why not try all the things that you've always wanted to try and kind of like make it fun? Because I think anybody could use it, but a lot of people say, oh, you get married and then you don't. And I'm like, but there's so much Trust me, there's so much. So thank you so much, Ashley. Can you let everybody know where they can find you?
Yeah, so I'm available everywhere at Sex with Ashley. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Clubhouse, TikTok. It's all the same name. So if you're ever looking for me, Sex with Ashley, that is how you found. That is how you found.
So Ashley,
same thing.
I follow Ashley on Instagram. She's always doing like reviews of toys. So if you're interested in certain toys or you're interested, just go check out her page and kind of like watch the videos and find out what works for you or learn a little bit more. I think it's a good place to start. So
I'll say this. So my original page was deleted.
Really?
Yeah, it was deleted in February. So I have a backup page, which is Sex with Ashley _ but it's still Sex with Ashley. So I don't do there aren't any toy reviews on that page. Okay. There aren't any videos of toys at all. So that was on my old page.
Where can they find it? Can they find that anywhere?
There are some old ones on YouTube.
Okay.
From like several years ago, but now I've kind of gotten away from doing reviews for toys. Now I write and I work with Love Honey, so I educate on their toys. But
so we can definitely have people go check you out. So Ashley also writes on blogs, so you guys can go check those out as well.
Yes, I write for Madame Noir and Black Love, so that's how I make my money nowadays. I write about sex, so that's what I do.
I think that's great. I think that doing something that you love and you're interested in and getting paid for it is amazing.
It is.
I just think that that's so dope that you get to kind of like create what it is that you want and it works for you. So I'm always happy when I see people doing that and it worked for them. I always feel like that's dope. Like you get to, you don't have to conform, you create. I just think that's dope. Thank you so much.
I was saying it was a journey to get here, but we're here. But yeah, thank you for having me. I think
that's what makes everybody's journey so much more appreciative, to know that you earned it and you worked for it and it's yours, and the value of it is so much more when that happens.
I agree.
Yes. So everybody check out Sex with Ashley, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Clubhouse, Pinterest, you name it. Thank you so much, Ashley, for stopping by. I appreciate you. I'm following you, and I'm here to support.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Hit me. Yeah. Please be clear, we are popping it off. Flex your fingers. And type up www.sayitloud.com now. And stay in tune with everything. Karen L is on the World Wide Web.
Thank you, Ashley Cobb, for coming by and gracing us with your presence on Say It Loud. Shout out to you. Thank you for sharing time and space with us. This is our Dropping Gems segment. And today I just want to say, you know what? Whatever it is that you want, you heard it from Ashley. Ask for what you want and communicate. That's that. Shout out to our sponsors, Manscaped. They sponsor our Dropping Gems segment, but we also want to show some love to all of the partners that we have that consistently show love to Say It Loud. So Manscaped, Sweet Vibrations, Female Rituals, She Orgasms, and we've recently partnered with a couple more companies that are showing us so much love. Momentum, we now have Taste Vitamin and our gummies, so there's a lot of stuff going on. I just wanted to touch base with you guys and say thank you so much for supporting me and loving me, especially during this hard time with me being in and out of the hospital and taking care of myself. I love you all. Thank ya. So guess what, guys? The new season is coming. I'm super excited. I'm revamping everything for season 4. We're going back to the original Karen and the Fuckery as far as the format of the show. So that's going to be tight. I love everyone on the show, but I really just love vibing with you guys. So that is coming back. What else do I have? Patreon is dropping July 1st for the new season. So we have new Patreon subscriptions coming out with different tiers and all kinds of access and videos and YouTube and chats and all of that good stuff. We are revamping our subscription to make it even better. So that is going to get even better than it was. So if you haven't subscribed to that, go ahead and check that out. Patreon coming. Be prepared to check that out. What else do we have going on? Say It's Sexy is alive and well. We have our own lingerie line. So if you haven't, and it's for men and women, there's items there for men, women, and we're putting boxes together so that you'll be able to have a date night box. So I'm really excited about that. So we have a lot of things while I've been away. I mean, I've been dropping content, but I haven't been recording as much. I have been working. I just want to let you guys know that I have been working, and there's a lot of things coming. Say It Loud is now, you can book Say It Loud podcast to come out and do a live recording at your place of business or wherever, you know, your street fair or whatever it is that you're doing. We'll come out and do that with the people. You can now book Karen L to host your party or an event, MC, panel discussions, all of that kind of stuff. So, I'm super excited about all the things that we're doing. And yeah. So that's it. Hope you have an amazing week. We're back to our regular schedule come next week. I'm feeling better. Definitely check out the subscriptions. If you have an idea or something you want to share, definitely reach out to me. You can email me at sayitloudpodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, I love you guys, and we'll see you next week. We out.
Hit me.
Yeah.
Please be clear, we are popping it off.
Flex your fingers, and type up www.sayitloud.com now. And stay in tune with everything. Karen L is on the World Wide Web.